my bubbly. I'm doing good on my goals.
There you go.
Me too. I have hot tea today.
Mm-hmm. I need to get into tea. What kind of tea are you drinking?
This is lavender, chamomile, and something else. It's called good night tea, though.
Okay. Are you going good night at 7?
No. I just like the way it tastes.
Good night tea.
Right. I said I'm about to get into the teas.
I actually just bought a muddler. I'll send this guy to you on social media, Kelly. I guess different people just write in and say like, hey, can you try a strawberry mint lavender tea? And he's like, why not? Like, why not? And he'll literally muddle the strawberries and the lavender and like put it in a French press, strain it. And so I have a French press, but I don't have a muddler, so I bought one. So I'll let you know how that goes too.
Yeah, send me
like, enhance the teas.
Yeah.
I'm trying to drink more water.
I don't have any issue with water, but I know tea has a lot of benefits, and I don't do tea. So I'm gonna try. I said I was gonna get me a cute little kettle or whatever you want to water in.
You should.
And do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good night tea sounds like some edible type situation, but you know.
No. No. This is what they call herbal tea, but the not that herbal.
Dang, I don't even have my phone down here. Oh well. It may be for the best, so I won't make no noise.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Boom shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Worst Ones. I am Kellie Lee. I am the best one and a preacher's kid. We have Janessa, Rowland, who is the middle one and a preacher's kid.
Because I'm the middle one in real life. I am the middle child.
She's always in the middle child, the middle worst one. And then Rudy, because Terry's no longer here, is now the worst one. And he is also a preacher's kid.
Amen.
Now we're moving on to Rudy.
Kelly, you were doing so good.
Oh, wait. So let's talk about, I was like, wait, what's next? Let's talk about how your week's been. You know what? We're going to start with Rudy today because Rudy never goes first. So Rudy,
we're gonna not only talk about how our week's been, we're gonna do a goal update.
Check in.
Check in. Accountability check in.
Amen.
As far as my week, pretty standard. Yesterday, so I rarely even do shows on Tuesdays. But I did a show yesterday, which was on a Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., which is also pretty rare. But it makes sense for the type of crowd that I ended up dealing with, which was like a really old white crowd at an art
museum. Senior community.
There were senior citizens there. It wasn't like at a senior citizen home or even in a senior citizen community per se, but it was at an art museum. Hella old white people. I mean, there was some people that was younger. I mean, so there was actually somebody there with a baby, like a newborn baby, probably Crimson's age, or a little bit, older than Crimson. Crimson's only a month, but definitely only a couple months old. And there was also like a couple kids there, and then there were people just say from the age of like 21 to probably 40 something, and then you had the geriatrics. You definitely had some 60, 70, 80-year-old people.
Did they laugh?
And those people hated us. I mean, I'm talking about the old people. Hated us.
They didn't like you?
No, they not just me. Us. Every last person on the show.
Oh.
I mean,
did they boo you?
No. No. Black people boo. White people don't really boo too much. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, so anybody who was probably like 50 and under had a great time. But the old people, and this is probably like half and half of a crowd. So like half the crowd is probably the geriatrics, and the other half was the younger ones. I mean, they hated us, hated our guts.
Geriatric just makes me laugh.
But but I'm the type of person. I mean, I like a challenge. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't mind going into an environment, and then I'm the only black comic, so I'm it's double the trouble for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going in there, young black Thundercat, and and like so. But it was. I mean, and honestly, it's stuff like that I just find funny. It was funny to me how much they hated us. Yeah, but other than that, it went well. I would definitely do it again, hands down. But I'm trying to think. As far as anything else outside of the ordinary, I went and got a tune up on my car today. That cost me almost $500. Yeah.
Adulting.
Yeah. And that 500 hit hard when you work at Planet Fitness. So I should say even harder, because I think 500 hits hard for anybody. But then as far as like accountability, so I definitely have been more productive than I was. Still not at tip top production level. And that's mainly because I'm such an analytical thinker. Like I'm always my mind is always just kind of going, you know what I'm saying? So one of the number one things that I always have been chasing my whole life is like I want to do whatever is like a part of just say God's purpose for my life and what that looks like. And, sometimes afraid to make the wrong decision because maybe it doesn't line up, whatever like that. But I didn't let that hinder me from doing what I just say could be doing. But then to even counter that, maybe this is a Rudy. To even counter that, I basically took some advice that I heard third party a while ago, which was, just make a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, and as long as you at least go full force or whatever decision that you made, like God will steer it to being on the path that it's supposed to be on. So instead of me paralyzing myself and not doing anything because I'm just trying to figure out the right decision and what the future looks like in my head, just go ahead and make a decision, make it to the future, and trust that God will, use whatever decision that I made to be the ultimate decision, that He wants, or the ultimate path that He wants me to be on.
Rudy, your Ruby was literally my jewel of the day in a roundabout way. So look at God.
Ain't he good? Won't he?
So that's me. That's where I'm at.
All right. Janessa?
Yes. Life's been all right. I didn't really do anything. I didn't go anywhere this past weekend. I did a lot of stuff at my house, like pressure washed my house and tended to the garden, things of that nature. But I really committed to our health goal situation.
Yes.
Maybe overcommitted. So I bought a juicer.
Okay.
So I was like, we're going to drink our fruits and vegetables because I'm not getting enough. And I was like, I'm going to be one of those people, like the acai, however you say it, bowl eating, juice drinking person. So I made this real basic strawberries, lemonade, agave, bomb. Amazing. I was like, I see why people juice. But then I tried to do like a cucumber, grape, pineapple. It was utterly disgusting. Like,
Yeah.
utterly disgusting.
Yeah.
So, I still got to keep playing with it, but I'm really excited about that.
Good.
And then I bought a mandolin slicer and a spiralizer, so we can do the what is it, like the squash spaghetti instead of. And then I like to make apple chips. So I'll use a mandolin slicer, slice my apples real thin, and bake them. So I used to do those things. I haven't done in a while, but since we've been rededicated to our goals, I have went to the extreme. So yeah, and I did work out Monday, Tuesday, and I did about 13 minutes before I sat down today. So it's something.
Yes. That's awesome. I'm proud of you both. See, accountability.
Kelly, how has your week been?
Are you down from 14 documents or whatever?
I was at 14, so I'm at 9.
Yeah. Okay.
So slowly but surely, I'm at 9. And it's so funny the way the Lord works, because I slowed down because I started this week doing my summer work. And so, but I gave some of that back because it was too much and whatever. And so the people who were supposed to come today stood me up pretty much. They didn't show.
Okay.
And I was annoyed because, like, dang, the way I wanted it set up was I would have been done having to go into the office tomorrow. Now I'm going to have to go back and reschedule them. But it gave me time to kind of work on the 14. And so I'm like, okay, Lord. So I'm at 9, but I have 3 that are like close to being finished. And so that's what I did today, was plugging away at that. I said, okay, so, and this is where I was proud of myself. And my mom, and I was telling my mom about it, she was like, I'm proud of you, because old Kelly would have, when I knew that they had canceled, gone on to the house. And did nothing and laid on the couch and finished Hillsong, and would have been my excuse. I gotta finish Hillsong, I'm going home, whatever. But I'm like, no, let me sit, let me continue to plug away. And so I'm at 9, but I will easily be at 6 soon. So that's been well. Working out has been well. My body is really like, what is going on? Not in between the sheets in my home, but just in this.
Baby, wait, let me explain. You try to point your cane.
Listen.
So, right. So that's what my body feeling like. What is going on? You have done a lot of activity in this last week and a half. I actually just left the gym. My trainer changed from yesterday to this afternoon. And that's why I needed a moment to get my life together and before I sit down. And so, but it's been good. So I'm proud of myself. Like I said, what am I down 5 reports? Before I went to the Mexican restaurant yesterday, I was down 3 pounds. So yeah,
before I went to the Mexican restaurant.
Now today a different story, but before we're gonna count yesterday's weight, not today. So yeah, so all as of yesterday, all is well. I see the manifestation of my
today's weight.
Not today's weight, yesterday. I can see it. I can see it moving. So I'm feeling good. I'm gonna keep pushing forward. Like I said, sometimes it's slow and steady progress, but I'm gonna make it. We're gonna make it. But I've thought about you guys and I meant to text you. I started a text message and never finished. And just keep going, keep moving forward. Every day is a new day. I try to listen to on my walks, like self-control and discipline podcasts. I don't even do podcasts, but and we on a whole one, but I don't even do podcasts. but I try to, so I've been listening to those. Here's my thing with podcasts, and then we're gonna keep moving since I'm leading today.
Okay.
Here's my thing with podcasts. People just talk about their experience. everybody has relationship experience. That doesn't mean it's healthy. That doesn't mean we want your advice and we need it to move us forward. At least for us, it's preacher's kids perspective. And what we can say for all of us is that we're preacher's kids. And so we have that. But when people just want to talk about general things and y'all don't have no authority and you ain't done no research, y'all don't have I don't really care. So that's been most of my issue with podcasts. So when I go and look at a podcast, I want to read their resume first and their credentials on how you qualify to give me this information before I do it. Because if you just talking just to talk, because everybody can get a microphone and a computer or a phone and do a podcast. But I need your background information first. So I found a couple of good ones, and that's been helping the progress as well.
Good.
Yep. So
keep on leading.
So so today's topic, I don't know what the title is, but
it's just regular.
No, I don't know if he had something witty. It's part 1. Oh, I need my phone because I got my notes of the Hillsong documentary on Hulu. So it's 4 episodes, and it talks about the Hillsong church that started in Australia and moved to Canada, and it's great in the sense of I wish we would have watched it years ago. I wish Terry was still here with us to discuss it as I was looking at it. I'm like, I wish he was still here to discuss it. But it has, I mean, I've written down like 10 topics, like individual topics that we can talk about just from things from the show. So I don't really know where to start though. So I don't know if anybody had a direction, and I don't have my notes because my phone is somewhere else.
You could definitely go get your phone. I mean, I guess I would just say start from, I guess, episode 1, or just,
They all run together for me right now. So can you remember episode 1?
Kind of. I mean, I would say for me, y'all talking about it definitely help refresh my memory because I watched it like a little while ago. But I do remember. Well, Kelly, first of all, let's just go get your phone.
All right, hold on. Maybe my computer. Okay. Yep. That's the beauty of Apple.
Yeah, it's all tied together. There you
go. Everything is everywhere. It's good and bad. Good and bad.
Yeah, so I remember. I know they kind of talked about how the church was formed, because I didn't know that it was started in Australia and all that as well. And then I know it fizzled into the what was the
Janessa just watched it. I watched it last week. Janessa, she fresh.
Let me see. So
but what was the pastor's name?
Carl Letts. Is his last
Brian
name?
Houston is
but not Brian Houston. I was talking about Carl Lentz. That's what I was trying to think. Yeah. So Brian Houston, Okay. Well, go ahead, Janessa. Yeah.
No, I'm trying to think too, because Kelly, I was telling Rudy before the show, I'm on part 4 and it's so much, like it's
I wish I would have done 1 and 2 and stopped, and then we talked about that. We really could have done every episode is an episode.
Yeah.
Really. But I watched it last week. But in my notes, the first thing that I wrote was one of the first things that came on. It was a young lady, and she was a former member of the church. And then Hillsong is actually, or I don't know if it's called Hillsong, but it's actually a Christian college too. In Canada, Australia, in Canada?
It's in Australia.
Australia. Okay. And so it comes on, and the chick says, because this is what I have written in my notes. Did this chick say that the day she started the church is tattooed on her? That's the way it started. That on, I don't know, April 12th, 1998 is the first day I attended Hillsong Church, and that date is tattooed on my body. Huh?
Yeah.
We already going too far. we jumped in, like, bring it back.
Right.
And so it goes through, from what I can remember, the first episode goes through Carl Letts in his experience as the pastor. And like I said, it brings you, and it gives you like the background history, because episode 3 gives you a lot of background history too on how we got there, how we got here. But something else that stood out to me about it all was someone said it's not church, it's an experience. And so how they built this smaller congregation to this humongous mega church. And one of my questions is, can you be too mega? Can a church be too big? And then it expanded from Australia, I think, to Canada, maybe the other show I watched, but Australia.
I think they had a church. It was like New York or something like that.
Yes, in New York. They had one somewhere on the East Coast. They had a lot of things. But another part, talking about Carl Lentz, that stood out to me.
It's Lentz. L-E-N. It's Lentz. L-E-N-T-Z.
Lentz. Carl Lentz. And I guess kind of where we can start is this idea of this mega church, this idea of building this smaller church into this mega church, and I think kind of how they did it. And I'm gonna call him Carl. And I think one of the reasons why Brian Houston, and we'll get into him, picked Carl, and they talked about it, was because of his personality, because of his charisma, because of how attractive he was, how he could bring people in. He was a good, and as people go on, they talk about an actor and a performer that he was able to bring people in. And so I guess, go ahead.
Rudy, can you insert pretty boy swag right there?
And that's what I was doing. And so the music comes on in the back, and I'm like, I know that song. And then it goes to Pretty Boy Swag, and I'm like, what? I'm like, they wow for this. But I guess that's one of maybe the first things we can talk about is, like I said, because the first thing is about Carl, and him being a pastor, and how he led people in. And a part of it they talked about was his attractiveness. And one of the questions that I have is, should there be a dress code for men? Y'all know that one of my favorite parts of the 3.5 years that we've been here is recounting this woman in the in the choir with this dress on. Y'all know I'm working. That's my goal. Y'all know I'm working to be the woman on the choir stage. That's my goal. I'm working to be her. Well, 20 years later, somebody remember me. But should there be a dress code for men? Because if you remember, like, he would have the button-down shirts, and you could see a little chest, and it was a little low, and so we talk about women all the time in general. Don't wear something too tight or too short, or something that's going to entice men and cover up and those things. And especially when we get into church, it's even more traditional and cover up more. And, what do you wear? But we've never really talked about what that looks like for men. So I didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on the whole pretty boy swag, dress code.
I mean, since it was definitely, I feel like I'm echoing. Am I echoing?
You are. Oh, you're echoing for me.
Yeah.
It's stopped.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So I know for me, when it comes down to just what you're talking about, Kelly, there was definitely a strategic move when it came down to hiring, Pastor Carl. Because I feel like, I don't know which episode it was, but I feel like I remember them even talking about how Brian Houston, I don't know if they talked about his looks per se, but I know they were saying like how he wasn't that great of a preacher. Like people liked him, and I think he knew how to like build churches, but as far as him in the pulpit, it wasn't
Brian Houston.
Brian Houston,
yeah.
Oh yeah. How he was, it wasn't that charismatic, I guess, when he was in the pulpit or whatever. And so I guess with Brian Houston's sauce of being able to build a church, and then Carl's sauce of knowing how to preach and being attractive or whatever like that, I think the two were like a match made in heaven as far as what they were trying to do, because Hillsong did have a foundation already as far as what they were doing in Australia, having the college, grooming people up, and when I say grooming, right now I'm not necessarily talking about all the other stuff, but just growing people up in general to not only live this Christian life, but also help the Hillsong, agenda move forward. But then when they, came to the United States in New York, and then building this church here, like I said, the two of them were, was kind of like a match made in heaven. And I think even like, musically, because I know for me, I was introduced to Hillsong music before I even realized it was a church, before I didn't even realize it was in Australia and the school, and then even all the scandal. But to answer your question about for one, can a mega church be too mega? I think in size is one thing, but I think in like it being big mentally to people is another thing. Because like you said, the girl talking about she got the tattoo of the day that she first attended, and I think the size a lot of times. Size with churches a lot of times either turn people on or turn people off. There's some people who hate big churches because they like, I need, cheers. I want to go where everybody know my name. You know what I'm saying? And they're always glad you came. But then there's some people who they like the bigger churches. They like the big screen that's behind the pulpit. That's the thing now, the big old screen and the smoke and all that during the praise and worship, and the lights flashing, and you see the big camera that's on the boom pole waving around. This, like some people like all of that. And I'm not saying that either. Preference is preference.
Right.
You can kind of go with what you want to go with, but the bigger the church, or even the bigger the pastor, as far as like in notoriety, it can become very like idolizing. Like you're idolizing these things versus even still focusing on God. And in church we kind of deal with just idolizing pastors in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, if pastor said it, that's almost equal to God saying it to a lot of people. Even so much so Bishop's 63-year-old getting all the amens about his 18-year-old wife. You know what I'm saying? But and then to even address the whole dress code, I definitely think there should be a dress code for men. Mainly, especially if, now it's one thing if, let's say, a pastor dressed a certain way and he wasn't aware that it was just, say, turning women on or whatever like that. And then once he was aware of it, he made an adjustment and went from there. It's a whole nother thing when you're using the pretty boy swag as a tactic to build the church. You feel what I'm saying? Like you're reeling people in. Because for one, that's easy to build the ego of that man who you're using. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't care who you are, pastor, rapper, whatever. Like, it's easy for your ego to be struck. And men, we deal with ego. We have fragile egos, whether you're talking about it being hurt or whether it's being helped. Like our ego is something that we have to die to a lot if we want to just say remain humble and walk in humility. And using an attractive man who dresses a certain way for a certain purpose is going to just continue to build his ego, and you're also going to bring people in for the wrong reason. Now, it doesn't mean that, and I've never listened to a Carl Lentz sermon, so I this is just me shooting in the dark here, but he very well could, be preaching, the word of God, in a way that's actually edifying or whatever like that. But all of that can be covered up with all the other stuff. And I think that if you're showing a little chest, granted, he can be young and have his hair or whatever, right, and even work out and stuff like that. But it's still, and I'm not saying he necessarily has to wear a suit, but you showing a little chest and you you dressing in a way that's, you know, that pulls women. I mean, that's very dangerous. Like it's very distracting. Even if I'll even say this, and then I'll let somebody else go. Even with a pastor who wears suits, right? If you wearing the finest of the suits and you got, you know, but it's like, you know, hella flashy and you got, you know, big rings, you know, $20,000 watch, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And you step a certain way, even that could be distracting. You know what I'm saying? Like even that, I feel like should go into the dress code etiquette of like, what are we really doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like you can going out looking good on date night with your wife is one thing, but you don't want to do anything that's distracting people from hearing from God because they so focused on, boy, my pastor be dressing, or boy, my pastor sexy, or boy, my pastor, you know, I like the little chest that be showing, you know, in this little open shirt or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that's my take.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at TheWorstOnesPK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at TheWorstOnesPK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you want to, when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show.
I'm just trying to figure out a place to start because it's just a lot. Now, one thing I thought I heard this. I could have mistaked it. Did they say something to the effect, and maybe this was about the college, that they would tell the women to dress a certain way, to kind of dress modest?
I can't remember if that was about the college or the church itself, because I remember, was it Brian Houston's wife who was telling, who was telling the women, how to dress? I do remember that.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting that you asked, like, do we feel like the men should have a dress code? And I think they should as well. And I know this is going to probably sound not like a typical Janessa response, but in today's world, common sense doesn't exist. And so maybe 20 years ago, nobody needed a dress code. But for these folks today, bullet it, number it, sub-bullet, spell it out. Because I think, you know, we are in a time where people, it's not like we're pushing the envelope. They have pushed it and gone beyond. And like, I agree, Rudy. When we think about dress codes, a lot of times we think about bodycon dresses or shorts or something when it comes in terms of women. But men as well, it could be the other way where it's super flashy. Now, this didn't do anything for me, but there was a pastor in Atlanta who used to wear muscle shirts. I know who y'all know who I'm talking about.
I'm about to say.
Some women loved it. It didn't do nothing for me, but you know, that was the thing. Now, I'm not saying people can't wear muscle shirts. That's just an example of something I've known where it caused a lot of conversation. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the dress code should be, but I think it should be more focusing on, I guess, not being a distraction, so that can kind of cover both women and men. But that's a deeper conversation than I have the mental capacity to have. So I'm going to leave that response there. But
before you go on, I want to say something about that, about the dress code. And so I think, Rudy, you made a good point just in terms of there's a difference in going out for date night. It's a difference in, you know, going to the sporting event with your boys. There's a difference in, you know, those things than how you show up for church. And even in this come as you are era, where, you know, pastors don't necessarily wear suits anymore. You know, my dad doesn't wear a suit every Sunday.
Right.
But I do think
Definitely.
I do think there's an intentionality and a mindfulness about how I may distract other people in the church, and what is the purpose for me wearing this. Now, if I just work out and I happen to have muscles and I wear a short sleeve shirt and you can see my muscles, like it's 90 degrees in Atlanta. Like I don't expect you to wear a long sleeve shirt and a jacket every day.
Right.
That's just how your body is built. But for Pastor Carl, I think it, like I said, it was very intentional of, I am going to bring people in this way. And they even talked about his jacket that he wore. What was it? Some name brand.
It was leather, some, I don't know.
Yeah, some name brand. I was familiar with the brand, but I can't remember what it was. Of the jacket that he wore most Sundays, you know. And so he looked like, and even when I watched this, sometimes, I'm sorry, Janessa, I'm gonna go back to you. Even when I watched this, sometimes I felt like I was at a concert, you know, like like what was coming in and out of a concert. Like I feel like it was easy for me to, and I'm not even there, just watching it, to forget, like, where am I? And what am I doing here? And even at one point they talked about people standing in line at 9 p.m. on a Sunday to go to church. I'm like, not a line for the church at night.
9 p.m. Saturday to go on
Sunday
Sunday?
night. So I guess they went an additional service. And
Oh, okay,
so on
gotcha.
Sunday night, they would just line up. There wasn't a service, he said. They would just line up.
Oh, wow.
And I guess he was there and he would come and preach.
Right. Oh, wow.
Right. You know, but that again was I think, and you said something else good, just in terms of like men being ego driven. And as women, I don't experience that as much, you know, and how you have to, and I don't know if these are your words, die to yourself day to day in order to humble yourself. And in that capacity, I feel like Pastor Carl, like, was he, like, he was on top of the world. He was hanging out with Justin Bieber and this person, you know, or whatever. But all of it was intentional about bringing people in. And when you get further in, it wasn't even about bringing people in. It was bringing the money in and the power and those pieces. And so it was just all
Yeah.
all big.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
And,
Janessa. Oh, go ahead.
and Janessa, before you go, I just want to add, as far as the date night thing, I think pastors should also be mindful of what they post on social media, especially in this era. Because, like, it's one thing if I'm the pastor, I'm dressed in the whatever on the date night with my wife, and then you as a member, you just end up at the same restaurant as me and see me. That's one thing. But if I'm posting on social media, just say the sexy outfit or whatever, that can be as distracting as me being in the pulpit. Because you're gonna if you follow my social media page and you now lusting after me on social media, it defeats the purpose of me trying to cover up in the pulpit, because you can just go on social media and still, still see me. So, like, and I'm like, so you could take pictures of date night. I wouldn't post them. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if somebody happens to see you out at the Hawks game or whatever it is what it is. Don't live under a rock, but at the same time, don't leave it for consumption online, because that can be just as, distracting. But I'm sorry, go ahead,
Janessa. My other thing, to the first question, Rudy, you answered, which was like,
can the mega church be?
Is a mega church what, B2 mega?
Mm-hmm.
So I have yet to see a mega church successfully branch out and maintain long term. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm saying that I personally don't know one. Even with this church, and I completely understood what they were saying, the church grew faster than the capability to maintain like the level of
quality control.
Quality and compassion and service. And how you go from like 30 volunteers to thousands of volunteers. And then it was just kind of like, I guess I forgot who was talking about how they were lining up for another service that wasn't even on the books. But I know at one point they were having 6 services on Sunday. And even the musicians were talking about how they kind of like weren't really getting paid for their services or were barely getting paid. And I was just thinking, like, I know in the Black church, musicians and money, that's always been a contention spot, and people want their money on time and they want their check. And but it's just like I know that's for 1 or 2 services at Black churches. This church got 6 services and you getting paid the bare minimum. And then you have people lining up. And I don't know if they opened the church for that 9 o'clock service. They were like, Hex, we're here. Come on in. Like,
right.
But that whole concept of using volunteers to do like the bulk of the work. And then you throw in, because I also didn't know all of this was kind of like relatively happening, even as late as 2022 or something like that. This stuff is going on. So we've talked about it on the podcast before, how we can use AI to write sermons, or how people sell sermons, or there are people who write sermons for other people, like that's their thing. So if I have all these volunteers doing the nitty gritty stuff, I got AI and a team of folks writing my sermons, and they talked about it in the documentary. At some point, the pastor's not even really at the church because they got to be on tour here, speaking engagements here, book tour over here, TV show over here. And I'm not going to say I fully see this happening to Sarah Jakes, but I kind of can see something happening that I don't know if they are like thinking about what we're talking about.
And you said, as far as with Sarah Jakes, as far as like being too mega, or
just kind of being everywhere, being everywhere, but still being grounded and still being able to serve where you're assigned to. Because she does.
Are you saying you think she's going to be able to do it, or she's on a path where it seems like she won't be able to maintain it?
It kind of seems like she might be on a path that she can't maintain it. I'm just saying, like, I know she does these kind of women's nights across the country. I know she has several books out. She has her conference that she does annually. I don't know if she still has it now, but at one point she had a clothing line. Like she has her podcast. She's a pastor. Her husband was a pastor. They just got a lot going on. Parents of 6 children or something of that nature. And I just don't know. Like, I just don't know if you were a member of the Parter's house and you're used to Sarah Jakes being there, and then she's gone for like 3 months, but then she popped back up. Like, there are some people who don't care. And then there might be other people, who you said you want the pastor to know their name and you want to be able to talk to them and have access to them. That might not be something that they're interested in. But that's why I said I haven't seen anybody successfully expand but stay grounded. And I think that was just in addition to a whole lot of other stuff, because I do agree with you, Kelly, the vision shifted from let's touch all the people we can and draw everybody to Christ to how much money can we bring in through this. And so the vision, or I don't know, of the church initially, or whatever it is, it just seems like it shifted and then it kind of spiraled out of control. And then there was all these other things going on, but it's so much, I don't even know where to start. So I'm gonna stop.
It's so much. And to that though, as you get further along, in episode 3, when we go all the way back to Brian Houston's father, Frank Houston, in the way in which he started the church, because in episodes 1 and 2, we know Pastor Brian got Pastor Carl, and then in episode 3, which I know we'll talk about later, because that's a whole another situation. Bless you. We talk about Frank Houston, and with his transgressions, I wonder if, like, what was the vision? Was the vision ever to truly bring souls to Christ, or was someone I don't want to use the word smart, isn't the word, but did someone just see how the church could bring money and power, how
Mm,
we can grow this thing into money and power? Because even
mm,
when, who was talking about their background, like I said, it's all running together now. Who was talking about their background, and they, maybe it's Brian, and he was talking about how when he was growing up they didn't have a lot, um until Frank Houston got into the church,
mhm.
and all of that. And
Right.
so did you just capitalize on, I see how church can build this brand, give me this power, give me this money? It
Mhm,
was never about building, which is why they were very intentional about bringing Pastor Carl in, because he can draw this hippie, young New York crowd, which he
mhm,
did and did phenomenally, which grew the church bigger than they've ever had it before.
mhm.
Um, and so I questioned the vision from the beginning.
Right. No, for sure.
And I know we've talked about a lot of false prophets and fake preachers and out here, in the way that they've even seen how, hey, if I can grow this church, I get power, money, respect. Now,
Mhm,
a lot of them can't do it, which is great.
mhm,
A lot of them may have a couple of followers, some family members that'll come and do the Bible studies in the house, and all of that.
mhm,
And sometimes they get alone and get a church. And again, I've seen churches that stay at them same 20, 30, 40 members, for 5, 6 years.
mhm,
And it's because, and I question their vision, and I
mhm,
question their purpose, their passion, their intent behind it, because I would like to believe that if the Lord really called you to ministry, then he's going
mhm,
to give you the ministry in which he called you for.
mhm,
And so where Berean didn't start off as Berean. And so the Berean now may have been my uncle's vision to have a church of this size, to have 3 locations, to be able to win souls in different counties in Georgia.
mhm.
And the Lord gave him that. There's another church where we don't want 3 locations. I
Right.
want 150 members. Everybody know, go where
Mhm,
everybody knows my name. I can touch.
mhm,
This is my ministry. My ministry is here. My
mhm,
uncle's is, I can grow it, and
mhm,
of course he knows, his members and all of that stuff. Like you said, but
mhm,
different pastors, different people desire different things for their ministry. And I
mhm,
would like to think that real ministers, people who've truly been called, have had that conversation of God as, this is how you made me to be as a person, and so this is what it looks like in ministry. And
mhm.
so then the Lord helps to grow that ministry to look like what it looks like, whether it's 5 members or 5,000. But
Right.
for those ones that you can tell want this huge ministry, and it's staying at them same 10 people, your grandma, your mama, your uncle, and your aunt, like, that's
Mhm.
because the Lord ain't called you to do this.
Right.
Now, unless you get, and still, and let's be clear too, God had a hand in growing Hillsong the way that Hillsong grew. Like, that
Mhm,
wasn't just them, but we also know that they were very intentional about how they wanted to grow
mhm,
this church. Even when you take a look at Brian Houston, in, as you were talking about him earlier, Rudy, in the first couple episodes, and you see him currently, the glow up is real. Like,
mhm.
two totally different people.
Right.
Two
Right.
totally different people.
Right.
When they were describing him early on, how he was kind of goofy and this and that, and
Mhm.
the Brian Houston now got a little hair slicked, and you know, now he go to the, well, and he was smaller then, skinny, till he can go to the gym and buffed up a little bit. He had a little stomach
Mhm.
too, but we all do. But still, the glow up is real. Probably again, understanding Pastor Carl's pull in, this is how I got these people. This is how I attract members. This is how people, men and women, because
Mhm.
yes, women may be attracted to the sex appeal, but men like the look of power, the look of the look of this. I respect this man because he has this and does this, and so then I want to be a follower. And how can I get this? And same thing. And so I forgot my point of where I started, but I just want to put that out.
Well, I did want to add one thing to what you were saying when you were talking about the vision of the ministry from the beginning. So one of the young ladies, I think she was one of the pastor's nannies, but she had went to the Hillsong College. And eventually I think she got fired or let go. But that's
he had the
that was why he cheated. He cheated with.
Well, this was lady. She was a person of color. She was.
Oh no, she wasn't. No, she wasn't a nanny. The nanny was a white woman. But yeah, the black lady. You talking about the older one or the younger black lady?
Younger. She was younger, not the mother-daughter duo. Okay. This was another lady, but she actually attended Hillsong College. I think she said a few years after Carl Lentz or
I do kind of remember
whoever.
Oh,
but
yeah.
She was doing some type of work for them, and she was told that her services were no longer needed, and that's when she kind of realized, like, her, just just her climbing the ladder kind of had reached a point where she couldn't go much further. But the thing that caught me off guard, because she kept saying, I want to be a pastor so bad, but it seems like the best I could be was a pastor's nanny. And I was just like, but why do you want to be a pastor so bad? Like, so bad.
I think that's the same one that got the tattoo, wasn't it?
I can't remember. Okay. I can't remember.
But yeah,
I think so. I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why do you want to be a pastor so bad? Though, for sure.
That was the same one who got a tattoo.
Why do you want to be a pastor so bad? Like, what is it? Is it really you trying to do Lord's work, or is it?
Because she got sick. She went from the New York to help them somewhere else to build the church, and got really sick. I think at church, and no one would really her. And she didn't have. Let's say she was in Montana. I don't know. California. It wasn't California. Let's say California. And yes, I remember this now. She didn't have insurance in California, so she couldn't get treated in California, so had to go back to New York to get treated for the medical issue. And while she was gone for 2-3 weeks, they let her go because she wasn't there, and I guess she was no longer helping. And again, like you said, wasn't she a volunteer and wasn't getting paid? How I get let go from a volunteer position?
I said that too, because a couple of people said they were told they had to leave or their services were no longer needed. I was like, but how?
I don't get paid for this, and yes, that's a good point. Like how much people were giving everything for this. They were quitting their jobs that were paying them salaries to go and volunteer in hopes for pennies just to be a part of the Hillsong culture, Yeah. And that screams to me, this is a cult.
Yes.
and not a church, that you have allowed your multiple members to quit their full-time jobs to come and do 6 services for y'all on Sunday, and y'all don't even pay them?
Right.
Say what? And so I'm sorry, Janessa, will you finish before I go on?
I did have one more. Sorry, No, you're good, but I have one more thing if I can remember it.
Well, you ended off by questioning why does she even want to be a pastor in the first place?
Oh yeah, why does she want to be a pastor? What, like, even the whole concept of the church? Because I did Google it to see if it was still open.
Is it?
It said it was closed, but I don't know if it meant it was closed for today.
Right.
I know I had saw something where the Hillsong, either Canada or US school, was closing temporarily with maybe a restart date of May 2024. And I was like, that's interesting, if that's, the case. And then I was looking at if it was accredited. And I think it is accredited, but I don't know if it's like one of those accredited, and not like really well-known accreditation. But I'm assuming Hillsong College is that their version of like seminary school, or because
not quite. I think they learned like biblical stuff, but I think theirs was more of a seminary is kind of more or less to, I think, to become, well, I let me not speak on it because I could be wrong. It might be a version of seminary school, but go ahead with your point.
But yeah, it just seemed like they were grooming them not just to be pastors or leaders in the church, but specifically leaders for Hillsong.
Right.
It just seemed very, I 100% like a multi-level, deep cult, but not even just corporation. Like, it is layers to this, and it's systematic, which is real scary because I want to say what they said they started the church in the 1980s, maybe something like that. So basically, the extent of our lifetime, give or take a few years, these people have been able to create this system that funnels people, that I won't even say guide, we'll say grooms people to just serve their greater purpose. So Kellie, going back to your point of what was the vision from the beginning, like I'm kind of questioning it now, because I know they were talking about how they have Hillsong Music, which is how I found out about them too. I had no idea about the church. They have like Hillsong cafes, they have the college. I know at one point they had 30 locations all over the globe, 150,000 members. Like, was that always the vision, or did it become the vision once you start seeing it was successful? Because they also did, and we all know this, they were talking about how, having a church, you're pretty much don't have to pay taxes. So I really don't know. This is a great case study for whoever could do it. I'm not, I don't have the background to do this type of case study, but how did the church go from humble beginnings, if it ever did, to this? And when did it change? And I don't know, like, how did you convince others? Did you give them some money to be like, well, if we do this, you can get a cut too? Like, I don't know.
So again, in my notes, because I was on my phone, like, and they're a little disjointed. But I have written down here Illuminati. I don't remember if that was my own thought or somebody said that in the show. But I know that we've talked about, a higher power, or not even a higher power, another power, as it relates to celebrities getting the status that they have. And I wonder, I can't remember. I just have it here, and it's Illuminati got pastor. I don't even know what that meant. That don't even make sense. So I can't remember what the exact thing was. But, kind of to your point, Janessa, was it a group of people that came together and said, this is how we can, kind of like a business move? Like, I can't remember which one they said. I know they said when Brian Houston went from Australia or Canada to, I just watched another show that was in Canada, so I can't remember if it's really in Canada or not. Well, Australia to the USA, and saw how a couple of other churches that were prosperity teaching and preaching and ran their church, and then he went back to use those same tactics. And I feel like that was a part where they said a lot of things shifted when he came to the US. And saw the way other pastors were running their churches and went back and took those teachings and those practices to Hillsong. And I don't know, was there a group of men or women that said, all right, right now we're starting off as, was it Hills Christian or something, whatever it was, Small Assembly of God, Australian, something,
Right.
we're gonna start here. And then we're going to grow it to something amazing? Or is it just kind of happened, like you said, they didn't even, it grew faster than what they had the capacity to even handle from Sunday to Sunday. So I don't know. I don't know.
I just have one more thing, and then I'm gonna just be quiet for a few minutes.
Mm-mm.
The other thing that really tripped me out was when they said that the members have different tithing or offering levels, and how you can be VIP and you can get coffee with Pastor Carl if you pay a certain amount. And again, that's why I go back to what was the initial vision, what was the initial mission, because that was wild to me.
I don't think they set out in the beginning to build this uber mega church for power and money. I think they got into it. This is just my silver lining glass half full perspective. They got into it for the love of God. They got into it to spread the love of God, to spread the word. And in there realize that this can be something other than that. That's what I'm gonna say. Because I'm sure there's a lot of pastors that do that as well. That realize like, oh shoot, I can really make some money off of this. Oh shoot, I'm really in powerful positions here. Oh shoot, I'm sitting in the same rooms as, politicians and celebrities and, these people in high power and police commissioners and police, I'm able to commune with the upper echelon. And I don't even really have to have, and I don't even know what Frank or Brian Houston's background is, but I don't even really have to have a degree or this or that or anything to even do this. I just have this plan, this strategy, and pray that it works. But it bothers me. And something else that I feel like it bothered me was because church is a place where people go to be filled, to be healed, to be seen, to belong, to want to be accepted, to find their place. And they've just taken complete advantage of that. And they have very intentionally, in a negative way, taken advantage of that. And I hate that, because, and I don't know at what point we'll talk about Pastor Carl's fall, but when something like that happens, and I've idolized you, I looked up to you, you were the reason why I got, like I said, because we're clear that they were in love with Pastor Carl and not Jesus.
Right.
But you were the reason why I got up every morning. You were the reasons why I went to church 2-3 times a week. You were the reason why I quit my job to, carry the sound system around or, do whatever. And then when he sins and when he falls, then I don't know what to do anymore. And I feel like that was so many of their stories. Like, well, what do I do without Pastor Carl? Because it wasn't about Hillsong, it wasn't about Jesus, it wasn't about God, it was about him. And that's the way I feel like he wanted it. That's the way I feel like he enjoyed it. And even to, your point about Sarah Jakes Roberts, I remember Pastor Carl talking about he was out and, hadn't preached in like 3-4 months, and he was happy to be back because he was with celebrities and doing this and doing that and whatever. And I think you made a good point about, but what about your assignment? Your assignment was here. And see, and why you going out traveling and books and whatever else he was doing is when you got caught up in some foolishness. If you would have stayed where you were assigned, well, I don't know, because he was having sex with the nanny. In his house. And let's talk about that for a moment. I don't know how we doing these episodes, Rudy, but let me talk about that for a moment too. Did y'all hear her say,
wait. So can you write a note about the nanny? Because I want to say something about what you're talking about before we get to the nanny.
All right.
I don't want you to forget it.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. Write down real quick whatever you get ready to say, so you can have a mental, so you can remember it. But I did want to say something about this topic of what was the motive in the first place, and all of that. Because one of my biggest fears for myself, this even goes back to what I said when we were just doing our accountability meeting in the beginning, as far as analyzing, chasing after, just say, God's purpose for my life, afraid to make the wrong decision, whatever like that. Because one of my biggest fears is doing anything where people are so attached to me in whatever it is that I'm doing that they miss God. You know what I'm saying? And it's scary, because even whether you're talking about a Sarah Jakes, whether you're talking about a TD Jakes, whether you're talking about a Noel Jones, whether you're talking about a Joel Osteen, whether you're talking about a Joyce Meyer, Creflo Dollar, whoever, can you even get to that point? Like, even if you have the most genuine agenda of just doing God's work, can you even be that big without people idolizing you? You know what I'm saying? Like, without you, like, is it even a possibility to be that large of a figure where people can still, be like, nah, but God? Because even, like I said, because even on a smaller scale, people still idolize their pastor. Like, even and I'm bringing up your dad for something that you said, Janessa. I remember you said last week that you've seen your dad get up at 2:00 in the morning to have to go to the hospital plenty of times. And a lot of us rely on, whether it's the pastor itself or even ministers, to come pray for our loved ones in the hospital, not even realizing that we have that same power to pray over our loved one that's in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? We don't necessarily need the pastor to show up. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing if, let's say, you may have lost a loved one and the pastor comes and brings some level of comfort or whatever like that, but we even put that power, as far as the healing power or the deliverance power, we put all of that power in the hands of these men or women, not even realizing that God gave us that same power, you know what I'm saying, to do on our own. So it's like, that's always been like a huge fear of mine. And I even saying that I would be a pastor, or even a mega pastor for that sort, but anything that I do, will people idolize me so much and put me on such high of a pedestal that they completely miss, God? And it's scary, because even like I said, with the mega churches, can a mega church be too mega? Like, and Janessa, you was talking about like a mega church branching out, and still maintaining that integrity or that humility or whatever like that. Like, because at the end of the day, even the person who's in the leadership position, like, you're still a human. Like, it's you can be on interviews and podcasts and radio shows or whatever as you're selling your book or your whatever it is, and you can present yourself as this person who's for the people and stuff like that, but there's still you're still doing all of this to build your brand. You feel what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of, and even the brand, just say, of the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many people who are like locked in on, my church. You know what I'm saying? My church, or my pastor, versus ever saying, my God, my God. You know what I'm saying? It's, even a lot of, pastors, and this isn't no shade to them, but just pointing it out, like, it can be, their YouTube channel is their name and then TV, pastor such and such TV, pastor such and, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's constantly just building the brand of that person, which, even if that pastor has genuine intentions, can the people ever not lock in so much on the pastor and just and keep the focus, on God? And it's a really, I think some cults can be intentional, and then some cults can end up that way, because us as humans, like, we we idolize people, our favorite singers, our favorite actors, our favorite, whatever. Like when people meet, just say their idol, even if they're an actor or whatever like that. I mean, people literally would break out into tears if they met a Denzel Washington or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Because you're just so crazy about this person. You just admire this person so much. And with Hillsong, their initial intentions could be questionable. But like I said, but even for somebody who has the purest of intentions, like I always wonder, how do you keep the people who you're leading on a pure mindset as you move forward? Because whether you're talking about a mega church or whether you're talking about the 150 member storefront church, even the smaller church can still idolize their pastor. You know what I'm saying? Idolize their church even on a small scale, and that's to me, it's hella terrifying. It's something that I think about a lot, especially because I like the career paths that I chase after deal with me, just say being in a spotlight. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't want people looking at me like that. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if you can have the good without the bad. But,
well, to what you just said, I got to think about it a little bit more. But I think one way, because Gandhi and Mother Teresa kind of popped up in my head, but people still, love and adore Gandhi and Mother Teresa and others like that. But I do think what kind of helped with them, they weren't out here living a lavish lifestyle at all. Like they really preached what they, or lived what they spoke. And so I think, like I said, I don't know exactly what needs to be done, but it is interesting. And this is where we kind of miss good old Terry. When you think about like a Joel Osteen, private jets and multi-million-dollar homes. And I don't know of any pastors. Maybe there are. I'm not saying there aren't, but I don't know of any pastors who maybe have a lot of money, whether it's through businesses they've done through the church or if they're businesses that are completely separate. But pastors who have a lot of money but live modestly, like extremely modestly. I don't know, but I kind of would feel like that might work. I wouldn't even say work, but might head in the right direction. Because I think a lot of times when the pastor acquires all of this fame and wealth, the members by default, well, if God can do it for them, do it for me too. And so that now we're chasing that instead of focusing on Jesus. But if the pastor don't have a, I don't know, Rolls Royce, and he's driving a 92 Honda Accord, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel you, but I guess once again, I think the idolization of the megachurch pastor may be different than the idolization of the storefront pastor, but I still think they still get idolized because of, because of the position. So even one who can't even afford to live a lavish life, but automatically just lives a more modest life because of his income, there's still a level of, pedestal, that we put them on. I mean, even figures in the Bible, you know what I'm saying? Like people, just say rant and rave about the Pauls and the Davids and the whoever else more, if not equal to Jesus, you know what I'm saying, in the Bible. You feel what I'm saying? Like the words written in red, in the Gospels, hold about just as much weight as the words that Paul wrote, in the New Testament as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's still an idolization of a man that happens from a certain level of accomplishment, a certain level of power, a certain level anointing, a certain level of, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's I don't know, it's just a really, it's interesting, but it's also like low-key like terrifying to me, because I just don't know if there's a way around it, and if it is, like, what's the way? Because we as humans, we just do it so easily. Like, it's just so easy for us to do it. All right, so Janessa, your jewel.
So, dang it. Oh. This week's jewel is a familiar jewel, but a new twist on it. So, once upon a time, I said something of the effects to finish the race or complete the task or something of that nature. But last week, I've been going through some tests that are really uncomfortable because it's requiring me to not only set boundaries and maintain boundaries, but the situation itself is not one that, I feel very comfortable in. And so the long story short is I had to face it head on. Like, there was no way of getting out of it. It was time for all the things I learned in therapy, the rubber to meet the road and to actually apply them. And I was terrified. But I felt like if you want to see the growth, you have to actually take the steps. And, I held to my guns, and it was the most uncomfortable thing. But all I could really think of after I did it was finish the test. And I don't know what's going to happen. It's only been a week. Nothing life-changing has happened in my life. But I am truly trusting, because I did my part, that God's going to do his part, which is kind of what you were talking about earlier, Rudy, when you said you just have to do it and how you were just paralyzed, but you had to do your part. And so I just want to encourage anybody who's going through a testing season to finish the test, to actually put the actions or the thoughts into motion, even if it's hard, because it's worth it. And you, as a little asterisk jewel, we can do hard things, and that's it.
Amen. I love that. Finish the test.
Finish
all things through Christ who strengthens us.
Now I just need the Lord, y'all. We're gonna add this to Kelly's prayer list to work it out, though, because this test was not fun. So let's come on with the reward.
Lord, finish the test.
Lord, you finish the test.
Lord, finish the test.
Group project.
Right. Finish the test now, Lord.
No, absolutely. All right. Princess Kells.
Y'all can't find me. Princess Kells, 51. I don't know what to tell you.
You can find me at JRihanna_. We have fun over there.
And you can find our producer at Risa_G. That is RHESA_ and the letter G. And that is part one of our Hillsong documentary review. This may go to like 10 parts because it's a lot.
We don't want part one of it. We don't know how many.
This was 4 episodes, but we only covered a little teensy bit of even one episode today. So yeah, it's a lot. So we might be talking about Hillsong for a while. So yeah, y'all just get ready. We even encourage y'all, like, go watch it on Hulu. That way you can be abreast on the conversation, and you can even leave in the comments how you feel about what we're saying, or even something that we may have missed that you saw. So check out the Hillsong documentary on Hulu. If you don't have Hulu, I'll give you Kelly's password.
No, you will not. I'm deleting everybody and changing the password. It tells me every time somebody log in, I'm deleting and changing the password. And Rudy won't be able to. Because if I kick off Rudy, I got to kick off Risa, because Risa gonna tell Rudy.
I'm grandfathered in.
Right.
So yes, but thank y'all for listening, for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and most of all, share this with somebody. And we are the worst ones, and we'll be back with part 2 next week.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.